This should go without saying, but the internet is great for some things, but lousy for others. Now, another thing that should go without saying is that no serious scholar or historian takes Edward Gibbon seriously. Not even the people of his own time really took him seriously. His extreme bias shows, and he was from like 300 years ago. The limited access to archaeology, ancient documents, he went more on tertiary sources, secondary sources, or poor copies of ancient documents. And like I said, he didn't have the what we have today. Now, under the Diocletian persecution, the lowest number that I came across, the lowest reputable number, not like from, some YouTuber, was that on average during the Diocletian persecution, 4,200 people were executed a year for being Christian. That's 4,000, or it was some, I don't know how they got to this number, 4285. So around 4,300 people, if you round up. I think they were trying to shoot for the lowest as being like 30,000, which is, they're really trying to get low with that number. The highest I've seen it's at between 250,000 and 300,000. I would say 100,000 is a safe area, although I might want to err a little higher than that. Keep in mind, though, this also has to be kept in mind, is that Constantine, the area that he ruled when Diocletian, the four edicts of Diocletian's persecution were given out, Constantine really didn't carry out any, if all. I mean, he carried out partially the first edict, but then nothing else. And actually, in 306, he had active toleration for Christians. The first toleration was given by Gelasius, who was under Diocletian, who encouraged Diocletian to persecuting the Christians and pushing for the death penalty. Initially, he didn't, though, push for the death penalty, but then later during the fourth he did, and death penalty by humiliating means to discourage others. I believe the stone is in Serbia or Romania. Gelasius' edict in 311, although there are plenty of noted people being executed afterwards, and Gelasius said, the pre-runner to the tolerance of Gelasius was the folly and idiocy of the Christian religion, or their Christian superstition. And he goes on, and then he says that we will no longer actively pursue the Christians. Although this pretty much, if you look at it, it was just to get the Christians out of hiding, or get them to speak up, because he was still taking away their land, and it was still permissible it was still not illegal for Jews to actively stone Christians. And then there was another purge in the army under him. Under the Edict of Milan, when Constantine ruled half the empire with Licentius, the Edict of Milan stated a toleration not for just Christians but for all religions. Toleration across the board for all religion. And that it was against the law for Jews to stone Christians, as well as Christian land and property to be returned to the Christians, which in Gelasius' edict he says there shall be no return of any property, and there is no recompense or any restitution for any damages and any death sentences that anybody who's already been sentenced to death will be killed, basically. I mean, this is not, that last part was not in the decree, but you'd have to, the decree that I'm talking about, when I say it's not in the decree, it's not in the stone carving that's in Serbia or Romania. But Gelasius, in the writings, he still had carried out executions, and he didn't really stop the persecution of Diocletian. It was actually the Edict of Milan. Constantine only took over half of the empire. It was Licentius breaking the Edict of Milan that caused Constantine to conquer the entirety of the empire. But the Diocletian persecution was the greatest persecution. It's called the Diocletian persecution, although Maximian, Maxentius, and Licentius participated in it, and Constantine, you could say, participated in it, but he ruled over in the west, and he really didn't follow the orders. The fiercest persecution was in the east: Egypt, Syria, Anatolia, Greece. But yeah, there are absurd numbers. There are people who will say, you'll hear people say tens of millions of people were killed. Ridiculous. And then you'll hear people say that somebody said that there was only, what'd they say? There was only 2,000 people killed, or around 2,000. And then they cited something, this was from a few years ago, and it was 2,000 people killed in 1 month in, I believe, Nicomedia. So yeah, just in 1 month. I think it was in like 309. But yeah, that was pretty silly. Although the first Christian kingdom was actually in Armenia. But again, Constantine actually didn't make the empire Christian. He just halted the persecution. He instituted or he called for a settling of this growing argument between the this new form of Christianity called Arianism, led by Arius. And it's raining, so I'll stop here.